All right, all right. Hey, how y'all doing? This is I'm Keisha.
I'm Cynthia,
Yes, and we are gonna
mother and daughter.
yes. Can you tell? So we're gonna start having conversations. These generational conversations, ones that inspire communication, inspire growth and
Change, yeah.
change. And just inspire positive vibes down your jeans, Let's pass it down. So, one conversation that we would like to start off with is one that we were having the other day. We be having conversations all the time, so this is a good one about little sister Jordan. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Elaborate.
So, for those of you who don't know, I have three daughters. My oldest is 31. I have a 22-year-old, and then I have a 9-year-old. So, the other day, my 9-year-old and I were in the car going to school, well, to my parents' house to school. And she asked me the question. She looks really perplexed, and she says, Mom, so do all of my sisters have the same dad or different dads? And I said, no. Why do you ask this question? And she goes, well, how did you have kids with different dads? And so I explained to her that, Keisha's dad, high school sweetheart, that kind of thing. And then I chose to get pregnant. So we had sex, and I got pregnant with Keisha. And she goes, well, were you married? And I said, no. And she goes, well, how could you have a baby? And I said, well, babies have nothing to do with being married. They have everything to do with having unprotected sex. And so I went through explaining that to her. But that conversation, it stuck with me for a couple of days. And as I was talking to Keisha about it, I found it interesting that we often, like, she has this understanding because we tell her, yep, no sex before marriage, don't have kids till after college, and when you get married, this and that. But the way that she asked me was like she had been perplexed and thinking about it for days or weeks or whatever, and just not having that understanding that you don't have to be married. That's not what gives you kids. Mm-hmm. And so what Keisha and I was talking about was how that makes a difference in learning the communication. And when we're kids, we're left to interpretate everything that our environment is teaching us.
Yeah.
Because nobody really stops to explain that to us. It's, no, school is important, so finish it. Mm-hmm. Go to college.
Mm-hmm. Or just like as parents, we tend to raise our children under our lens and our perspectives, our beliefs and traditions that we're used to. Well, it's so important to keep in mind that these children that we're having
yes.
are their own individuals.
Right.
So this is like pretty much our borrowed time with them. And it is only here to raise them and to become people.
Right.
So we're raising these little people to become big people. So it's important to explain to them the consequences to their decision making.
Right.
Instead of you have to be married before you have children.
Yes.
Like the key to it is explaining why.
Right.
Why this is about. And I mean, just because there's so many consequences to those decisions.
Right.
Of having sex before marriage, or just having a child outside of your marriage. There's a lot that comes with it. There's a lot of trauma that comes to that child just unintentionally. You don't even know that you bring it upon them. But these are the decisions that you're making for this child.
Right. And I think that that's one of the reasons why like creative thinking kind of evolved even through Seeds of Virtue and everything is because, I was raised in a 2-parent home. And when I made the choice to have a kid, I mean, I didn't just have sex and accidentally got pregnant. Like, I literally decided I wanted a kid, so that was the only time we had sex so I could have a kid. It was popular at that time. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, you ain't lying.
For whatever reason, like I did. I wanted a kid. And so, but the thing is I already knew at that point that I didn't want to stay with her father. So I had already planned on raising her by myself. But what I did not know was I was creating a generational curse or habit. Just with that, I watched my girls go through the effects of not having their father in their life, and I can see it, and I can empathize with it. However, I didn't know what it was like because I've always had my father in my life, and although we had much dysfunction in our family, which I was like, oh, but really, totally oblivious to it.
I wasn't. It's because I've been her little G since day one. Okay.
So I guess I was just in La La Land because, my kid could see it, but I couldn't. But yeah, so I didn't. I mean, I had a really good upbringing as far as I'm concerned. However, even my sister, she has a totally different experience than I do. But I had a good upbringing. And I didn't know I was in dysfunction. I mean, as far as, my parents using drugs, stuff like that, I didn't know. I just had a whole bunch of uncles and aunties that weren't related to me.
Yeah, that just definitely has a lot to do with your individual personality, though. Like, that has a lot to just do with who you are. Yes. So. You be la la la. Yeah. So, I mean, it is rainbows and unicorn in your mind and in your heart. So. Yes. I mean, that's just how you function, so.
Yes. But I didn't understand what I was creating for my girls. Yeah. Not having a father in their life and not having a father around. I just thought I could take care of them myself. That's what mamas do. Yeah. So, not understanding that she grew up with a lot of things that just weren't. Yeah. But then I was 18 when I had her, so basically she was my roommate.
We was growing up together.
Yeah, and we was just cool like that. She was like,
Yes. So what is the biggest aha to this all? Why is it so important to have these transparent conversations with your 9-year-old or your little baby?
I think one of the most, and I love. You said we, instead of raising our kids to be kids, we need to raise them to be adults. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm from the era of be seen and not heard. Even though my parents gave me the freedom to do and say and ask questions, there was still a line to it. Mm-hmm. So I think the most important thing to people learning how to communicate, learning how to cope with life. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is to be transparent with them. So I could have sat in the car and said, oh, well, they just do. They have different daddies. That's okay for some people. Or I could have lied and said, yeah, we were married. That's what happened. But I felt the need to tell her the truth, even at 8 years old, getting ready to be 9, to explain to her about sex so she understands how that happens instead of thinking that you can't have kids unless you're married. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because that leads to a whole lot of other problems.
That could be complete devastation.
Yep. And then you just, those are the conversations for the topic. So we're going to leave that there.
As parents, we spend more time, well, you're not age appropriate for that conversation, and you're not, you're not ready to deal with that. However, we let them play video games and YouTube and Disney Channel.
Yeah, the world exposes it to them.
Yeah, and then they're left to interpret all that stuff for themselves instead of who's the best teacher to have but your parent. So I would rather my kids hear the sex talk from me. I don't care if it's at 5 years old. But it's better for her to hear it from me than to learn it from someone else. So what would you think is a big aha moment for you? Or what do you think the point is?
I think just creating an open and safe space for your children. One thing that with Jaden being 13, I'm just like connecting with my kids at the age that they are now has been totally different. And I'm still trying to figure out how to do it.
Right.
So one thing I explained to him, like as, being older, I'm cutting his hair. Because I do that, y'all. I'm cutting his hair and I'm just like, I want you to know that you can talk to me about things that you get confused about, whether it's between your friends or somebody that you like. I want you to be comfortable enough to come to me and tell me about it, because I can't help you unless you give me that opportunity. So I hope that you're comfortable enough with allowing me that opportunity. Like right now, that's all I can do, just because I'm teenage boys, period. I'm confused about. I'm a little perplexed. I thought I had it down.
Teenage girls.
I mean, I wouldn't even know what to do. But like boys, period. Like I got my own issues, but we working through that.
So then let me ask you this. So with giving your kid the permission to ask you questions and know that it's a safe place, like, how does it make you feel at the thought of them still doing it without your knowledge? Because I felt that I was doing that too. Yeah. And then I find out as she becomes an adult, all the stuff that she was involved in. I'm like...
But, I mean, what? I did do things.
What do you mean you ran from a kidnapper? What?
Yeah.
Why am I just hearing this?
Not just one, y'all. That was like 3.
I hear about this stuff as an adult. Now
but
she's starting to tell me
safe. You taught me how to be safe out here in these streets. I know.
That's the kind of stuff you come home and tell your mom about.
Yeah. But you was working, like... It was different. And then, like, I'm a mind person. I be in my head. I was 8 and 7 in my mind, y'all. Like, just thinking, deep thought. So, I just think that's just me. I don't know, something wrong with me. But, one thing that, a conversation that I love, like, about being transparent with your kids. So, when we had this conversation before, y'all. So after my mama got married, the first time, this is when I was 9. So back up, I was the first child, and then I turned 9, and my mama decided to have a baby, and then on top of that, she decided that she wanted to get married. So I'm this only child, 9 years old, like, with a new baby sister, and then this stepdaddy just come out of nowhere.
Wait, and she don't want nobody to take her mama's attention.
I mean, dang.
Even now today, she be pulling my grandkids off me.
Anyway, so this not about me, okay?
Okay.
So then we get to this point, like, this is after her marriage. Y'all, I was like 6, 7. I could climb on the counters and cook my own macaroni and cheese. I knew how to heat me up some chicken if I needed to, some fried chicken. Like, I knew how to make me a meal. My mom worked at night, so like I knew how to wake up in the morning and make myself breakfast. Like, I was an independent little kid. So I handled business. But after my mama got married, y'all, she was cooking every night. We was having dinner at the table. I was like, where did this come from? Like, oh, you could do this? And so I was like, oh, so she had to get married in order to have me a full course meal and dinner at home. Like, oh, so we can't have dinner like the little white kid. She could do it. But
wait,
that was my interpretation when I was a little kid, y'all. But
and I found out about this interpretation. What was it, like 2 months ago?
Yeah.
because she was telling people, yeah, my mama got married and then all of a sudden she could cook for us. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I've always cooked for y'all.
Yeah, y'all. I was a little blown by that. I felt a little salty.
All these years she been feeling salty about that. And so I just simply told her, I'm like, you do realize the reason why you were cooking and learned how to do that because I was working night shifts and evening shifts and getting home late. By the time I got married, that meant I had 2 incomes. I didn't have to work as much. And I was home before 5.
But you don't know that when you're 9.
The conversation never comes up. Because even if she was to say to me, Mom, can't you just make dinner? I'd say, well, I have to work. I'm going to need you to help me. But did I explain to her why we had to live like roommates for most of her life? You know, did I explain to her, oh gosh, she hated, can you just watch your sister? I should be home in an hour between shifts, whatever. I didn't have no kid. Why I gotta watch the kid? Because you're just helping me out. I just need you to help me out.
You did explain that eventually.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about that time at that time when you was married, when you first got married. I had a whole attitude. She got married to this man.
And what she didn't understand was what I was going through with him. Like I found out that he was cheating on me the day after we got back from the honeymoon. And, so going through a series when I was telling her about, and, at that time, he literally, he said he wanted to stay married. So I'm trying to stay married, whatever. And so he used to come home and try to pick fights with me so that he could storm out the house and leave. But I refused to give that to him. So if I came in the house and you know how you just drape your coat over the chair or something, and I just took everything out and start preparing dinner, and then I go upstairs and take my stuff up. Well, he would come in and say, you just lay your stuff around on the table or the chair and blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, oh, no problem. And I just go get it and I take it upstairs. So I gave him no excuses. If it was dishes in the sink, whatever.
She had a whole nother behind the scenes thing going on, and I had no idea about. So that's the biggest part of it all. I understood that my mama had a whole life. Later on, after I became a mother and going through life myself, I understood that my mom was going through life herself. Yeah. And technically, just like me, I'm growing up with Jaden myself. My mom was growing up with me too. Yeah. Just because you 18, 20, don't make you grown. You still kind of slow.
Especially because I have butterflies and unicorns in my head, as she calls it.
Skipping through the world. So, yeah. I just definitely appreciate the transparency that we learn to have, throughout our relationship as mother and daughter. Yeah. We worked on it. It was a continuous thing that you never stopped working on. Yeah, and true. That is what, I think that's definitely what puts this foundation on, why you still got a 31-year-old mama's girl.
The funny thing is all 3 of my girls have an only child syndrome.
Yeah. So
all of them.
Let's see. Yeah, I just think so look, those are the points today. It's transparency. Transparency over reality. Transparency about reality over your traditions and beliefs. If you have traditions and beliefs, definitely instill that in your child how you see fit, but explain to them the reality to it, without the condemnation religion part or your beliefs. Let that be, a part of it, how you want to fix it, but the most important thing is the reality of shit. Stop making it all rainbows and unicorns and fluffy shit for your kids when life is not like that.
Took me almost 50 years to find out, but no, I'm playing.
Yeah, because I mean, it took me a while to find out life wasn't unicorns and rainbows.
It's true.
So, yeah, that's just transparency between our kids. Remember that your children are to be raised to become a grown people.
Right.
They're adult people.
Right. And that's
they have
the
to function amongst a whole world.
Right. And deal with other issues. You know, sometimes we shelter our kids. That's what me and my husband kind of differ with my 8-year-old is, you know, I tell him all the time, you know, we're raising her to be an adult, right? So you can't protect her from everything. She's got to deal with, you know, the kids nowadays are committing suicide at a higher rate. They are dealing with so many different issues and holding stuff in, and depression and anxiety and everything else because they don't know how to cope.
Yeah.
They're not taught how to cope with stuff that happens to them. You know, instead of, you know, she got an argument, well, just come in the house and just play with me and, you know, you don't have to deal with anybody. Well, that's not the reality of life, you know. So I remember she's still hot this day when I made her.
Made me what?
When the little girl took her bike.
Oh, and she came. I ain't mad at you for that. Shit.
I made her go outside.
I was shocked about it. Like, you really just gonna call me out here with all these kids about to jump me?
She needed to go get her bike, and the kids came to the door and they had sticks and stuff.
And she called me to the door.
And I said, Keisha, come out here.
The kids came and knocked on the door and said that they was here to fight me. And she called me, Keisha. And what?
I did make sure I let them know I will be standing here. Yeah. Y'all will not be jumping my child.
One at a time.
It's going to be one-on-one, and you will not be using sticks. I will beat all y'all and y'all mamas.
They seen these muscles and they did. So, yeah.
My auntie Pat taught me a long time ago, even if you're not tough, you have to act like it. So I'm really good at throwing that crazy out there, like I'm about to, you jump me if you want to. So I didn't get bullied a lot.
Yeah, and I'm just really crazy.
Yeah, she's truly, she was the bully.
I was not always the bully.
It's always.
Once I realized it was wrong, I stopped. All right. So, that's the end of our first conversation, y'all. You got something else you want to say?
I think that's good.
All right. So,
I do want to say, take the time to talk to your kids.
Yes.
And not just throw stuff at them.
Yeah. And hear them.
Yeah.
So, listen. The art of listening to the actual conversations. That is very important.
Yeah.
So,
I think the thing that changed our dynamic the most was when you were 17, 18, and we went for counseling, and the pastor said, you have to show her respect to get respect. I'm like, what, you talking to her? He was like, no, she's becoming a young lady, you have to learn how to respect her to get, she just need to do what the hell I say.
Yeah.
And that was, but once I really thought about what he was saying, that's what changed our relationship. And we just don't live in that time anymore. And this is a time where we need to respect our kids enough to hear them, to try to understand them, and to help them understand what questions they have and feel okay with coming to us about it.
Yeah. And just because that was a time that children were treated like that, don't make it all right. It was very unhealthy.
Yeah.
We just tend to pass it down to our generation. So,
yeah.
Hey, that's why we having generational conversations. Bring it to light so that it may dissipate.
Yes. And then we can create a generation
of new ideas.
That's what it's all about.
All right.
You guys have a good week. Thanks for watching.